I did I downloaded some like old photos from the first Ways Goose.
Ooh.
They're not very good. They're all like terrible, terrible photos, but I was thinking maybe I would try to share some. But there's one where apparently was the very first Ways Goose where we wrote wood type on Nick Sherman's knuckles.
Yes.
I did not realize that started so early. We like jumped right into that.
Do you want to share your screen? Do you have them pulled up?
Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. I was gonna start with, I have like a photo from my first trip to Hamilton, and then a couple others. Make sure we go the right way though, because there's some weird old photos downloaded too. Let's see. Where's my share?
Welcome everyone. I'll do our normal, let's see, it's not, Amanda.
So that's the first time I came to the museum. The old location. Sorry, do you want to do your welcome thing first and then I'll do this?
That sounds good. Well, my welcome is, I'm so glad you guys joined us. We recognize many of the faces, but there are new faces, which is great. I will put over in the chat that we love to know where you're at, like what your Instagram handle is. That way we can also share, and if there's somebody you want to know more about, you can find out more about. So I'll start that over there. I want to say thank you, Amanda, for joining us today. I'm so happy that you would do one of these with us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
And I think starting it off with the first time you went to Hamilton is a wonderful way to begin. So thank you.
I feel like it's a good move.
Yeah, I think it's great.
So I was originally I'm finishing my undergrad degree at Goddard College right now, out of Vermont, and I was supposed to be working on a project about the canons of page construction, but the book that I needed didn't come. So I don't have anything to share with you guys about that just yet. But in the meantime, I figured I would do my little Hamilton experience, and then, we can just chat for fun. But this is the first time I came to the museum in 2009. Jim had just taken over, right? He just had his anniversary.
Today's the day, 11th anniversary for Jim Moran.
That's perfect. And I believe I was there in June of 2009. I was on a road trip with my little sister, and it was very, very fun for me, not so fun for her. And then after meeting Jim, I went back to Philly and asked him if I could come do an internship since I was unemployed, because that was during the last recession and I had gotten laid off from my investment firm printing job. So then I came back and I printed the Halloween prints at the museum, the old space, which was very fun. And then this is the first Ways Goose, which is so crazy to look at that like janky setup. Like all those mismatched chairs, and I think we prepared for like 20 people on that first night, and then we had like 50. So we had to just keep grabbing random things.
Don't talk about Matthew Carter's hair tie like that. That's not janky. That's a standard issue Matthew Carter hair tie.
It's a really good hair tie.
I was trying to see if that was Rick 3 rows up. Sorry.
I mean, there are plenty. So I met Rick this time, and who else did I meet? Richard Zoft, and Meredith was there. Yeah, Rick's up there.
That's my bald.
That's
my bald head. Yes.
And then that's Jim pulling in the. That was when the Post family came and volunteered. You guys couldn't see my air quotes, but I did.
I did.
Around volunteered. And then this was our very first Berserkers after party.
Hey, first Berserkers.
Yeah.
And there's baby Rick and baby David Shields.
David Shields, officially the most handsome silver fox of Hamilton Ways Goose fame.
Yeah, the George Clooney of letterpress, as we call him.
Letterpress, there you go.
And there's Nick Sherman's Knuckles that we did a funny. I don't know if he wrote that or someone else did. I really can't remember. But that was kind of my first couple months knowing him. A fun time. And that's pretty much all I prepared for you guys. I'm sorry.
I think that was a wonderful introduction and a walk down memory lane.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
it was a good time. Meredith, when I met Meredith at the first Ways Goose, I misspelled her name on her name tag twice.
At least twice.
At least twice. Which was because I had another friend named Meredith who spelled it with an I, and it was just like a whole thing. She had to keep coming back to me and telling me to fix it. We got there. And now
Well, that's why Meredith is now in charge.
Ron says he's in charge.
No.
Yeah, right.
I saw Greg Walter's name pop up. Does anyone still see it?
I'm here finally.
Yay!
Hey, what's up?
Oh,
Look at him.
Oh, we've got all kinds of people. Molly's here. Hi, Molly. And then we've got new director, Peter Crabb. Hi, Peter.
Oh, how are you?
Um,
I'm tea, so I'm happy.
okay. Hi, Selene.
Peter, what do you drink? What's your tea?
Actually, weirdly enough, it's an American tea, Harney and Sons.
Piss off.
Yeah. I know, traitor, huh?
So what's up, guys? I have nothing right now.
So the way we were going to do this one is it will be an official Ask Amanda Anything, AMA, AAMA. But also we can do it as a hangout. Now, I would love for you to say what you are doing in school, because I don't know that everyone knows what you're up to. So I think that would be a good thing to chat about as well.
Okay. Like just in general in school?
Yeah, and what kind of program it is, because it's a little bit non-traditional, right?
Yeah, it's definitely non-traditional. So I dropped out of college in 2005. I was going to Temple University in Philly for journalism, which I was not cut out for. And this year I went back. I'm at Goddard College, which is based in Plainfield, Vermont, and it's a low residency program. So we do like 8-day residencies historically at the college, although we just found out yesterday that our next residencies will all be virtual, which is like a real bummer, but understandable given COVID. So you go and you do a week of residency stuff and you meet with an advisor and you create your entire study plan on your own. So you make up your own classes and then you create your entire learning plan and then you come home and you do it all, or try to, which is what I'm doing right now, is trying to do it. So I'm going for creative writing because when I was a little tiny kid, I wanted to be a writer, and then I didn't do that. But I have kept an internet journal for almost 20 years now. So I'm kind of mining that field. And one of my concepts that I'm working with is kind of a nonlinear memoir sort of fiction thing that has been, I've described it in the past as a choose your own adventure relationship history novel, memoir, autobiography, something. So it's kind of like my romantic history, but with fictional offshoots where if I made different choices. Yes.
Ooh, that's fun.
Nail it, Rick. And then also doing some kind of a lot of writing about childhood stuff. So just kind of like working in that auto bio world. I was supposed to turn in a short story today, which I have not even started. So that's fun. If anyone wants to give me some ideas, that sounds great. But you know, so it's been a pretty cool experience. My advisor is a writer. He just had his like big book come out yesterday, which is also very exciting. So I'm gonna you know, show that one for a minute. It's called Heaven. It's really, really cool. It's also autobio, childhood memoir kind of stuff, and like a lot of gender stuff. He's a trans man, so there's like a lot of interesting stuff that happens there. So I'm kind of trying to pull myself into that world. But I have to create a math credit for myself. I have to get either math or science credit. And since we create our own classes, it's like a very interesting thing to try to do, right? To create math without being in a class. But I realized that there's like some math in letterpress, so I'm trying to do some stuff there. And there's the canons of page construction, which involves a lot of geometric principles. So my hope is to do a little work with that stuff and then print something in that in one of those canons to present, and then hopefully that will get me 3 math credits so that I never have to think about math again.
Yeah.
Mary, the book is called Heaven by Emerson Whitney. It's really great. It came out on McSweeney by McSweeney yesterday. He also just had a piece in the Paris Review. There was an excerpt that McSweeney's posted, and a bunch of other different places are posting his work right now. And it's really like poetic memoir. It's really beautiful.
I would love to hear if anybody has any ideas on how you could turn letterpress into a math credit, or I think that's really cool, and this would be the group to ask.
Yeah, I think I brought it up at one of these others, and everyone was like, I don't know. So I have been using, like going through, Jen Farrell has a lot of like the math of letterpress posts on her blog. So I've been kind of like digging through that stuff, but I'm open to anything. It's one of the nice things about Goddard is that it's like a hippie college, and really they just want you to get credit for the work that you're already doing in your life. So it's kind of, they do a lot of like applied learning credits where if you've like done work already in your life, you can fight to get credit for the stuff you've done without actually having to do additional schooling, which is pretty cool.
I tell you, there's quite a bit of math in wood type, but Greg and several other people who have done metal casting type, it's amazing how much math is involved with that. So maybe we could work something out.
There are other areas too in graphic design and printing. One would be to show how the golden ratio is derived.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff that I was working with that canons of page construction. That's like kind of where I sort of initially placed myself, or like positioned myself in trying to look into that stuff. The golden ratio is one of those canons. So
right.
There's like 3 others.
A second problem that I've been fooling with and finally figured out how to do, which is really not too complicated. Suppose you mix some ink with say three base colors, maybe from CMYK or something, and so you have a certain ratio, and you print it and you don't like it, and you want to make a different color. With obviously a different ratio of the colors, and you want to make the minimum amount possible of the new one. How do you determine how much to add? You want to use the old ink. You don't want to. You don't want to discard it.
A skosh. Is that what you? Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not working with coaches. I'm working with grams. Yeah. I mean, I want to know, how many grams of what colors should you add to convert one ink into another?
You're apparently much more measured at your ink mixing, because I just like glop some stuff and go with it.
Yeah,
but measuring it makes sense.
It was a problem that the assistant director of the Hamilton Museum brought to me. I remember about 2 years ago. She was having that problem, and we solved it.
And Larry, if everyone doesn't know what your previous profession was, do you mind sharing that? Because it might give some insight into how you think about letterpress, which I absolutely love. Yeah,
I was a physicist for 38 years. I taught physics at the university here in Manitowoc, a freshman sophomore campus of the UW system, and about halfway through, I got a degree in computer science also, and taught computer science during the last half of my career. And along the way, I've studied a lot of math, and um, probably have just about the equivalent of a math major. And math is sort of a hobby with me. So yeah, I tend to be sort of mathematically oriented.
So would you like to just teach me some math via Zoom? Can I get school credit that way? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I want to get into that business, but
Fair.
That sounded like a solid no, but that's
Sure
okay.
did.
But in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
I'd
Yes,
love
no,
to, but I don't think right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Totally fair.
no, if you have specific questions, Amanda, of course, I'd be happy to engage them.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I have no specific questions just yet, but the book that I requested should be here next week. So maybe then I'll have more specific questions.
Okay.
There was something that I was thinking we could try and pull off. As long as Scott is on the call, you know, I imagine we've all been kind of like proofing our type. And I was proofing my type, and I found some sorts that I can't make really good use of. And they're super specific. Like there's some 5-line Tuscan, you know, like pretty nice sorts, but there are only 6 of them. And I was wondering if we should start sort of swapping pictures and being like, hey, this is the sort of the day. Whoever needs this can have it kind of vibe, because I honestly like have no place to put these 6 characters of 5-line Tuscan. They're beautiful. They're clearly, you know, sort of original works. They're probably last century. And I know someone out there needs like an AE diphthong in 5-line Tuscan, but you know, like this is as good a place as any to post that, as long as I don't want to charge for it. Has anyone got that sort of an idea that this is a good place and a good way to do that? Or is this not the good place and good way to do that?
Tammy and Adam Wynn have been working on this kind of concept for about the last 5 or 6 years of a central place to send things and to help fill sets, or even a loaner library kind of thing. So Tammy and Adam are both really working, so they can't be here today for this, but Tammy and Adam have been doing research on this and planning it and working out problems with it. And someone else is too, who called me, and can't tell you who it is, but they were also had a large storage space available within their own business where they could store and sort and complete. So Rick, it's a great idea. What a great idea.
Hey Scott, we're actually here.
Tammy and Adam are here?
Just don't tell our bosses.
Oh, okay. I don't see you. I'm sorry.
They might be on the next page for you. They're on my second page.
Okay.
Yeah, we had talked about that idea years ago, and it's a really great idea, but I think the execution of it was such a huge task that we just didn't have time to even start on it.
So why don't we not centralize it and just simply, like, Stephanie, if you want to start the call with, are there any sorts to sort out? And then people can share screens or put files into the chat and literally take one picture of their sort, throw it up there, and you can pull them down and you can do a share screen and say, these are the sorts that are still available unless they're not. And then we can kind of start out our meeting with a little bit of stuff to sort out. Because like I keep on walking past these sorts and I'm like, they've got to have a home. They've got to have a good home. And I just thought that like either Scott or, you know, Tammy or Rob, you know, like someone's getting the calls that say, hey, can you make me these sorts because I don't have an E or I don't have an A. And you know, boy, we could save a lot of energy in novel type production if we were just swapping the stuff that didn't mean much to us.
Yeah, I get quite a few calls of people who want sorts. I've got 4 different people I'm cutting type for right now. One of them is a really big order. So it takes me a while to get to it. Right now I'm here and working on it. I say I have 4 different people right now I'm working on making sorts for, and sometimes people, you're right, people have them, and it would be more historic and a better way for it to find a home.
Yeah, and even if the pattern didn't exist or something, like at least we could send you the actual sort, and then you could make 4 more off of that, you know?
Yeah, I do that a lot for people, and make 4 E's or 4 A's, or sometimes it's just they only have 1, and they need 4 or 5 more, and so people proof them and send them to me. Send them me the proof, and then I can scan that, and with some measurements I can recreate those. It becomes a very big problem. At one point I had about 15 people I was working on for that, and I still have a set of type. They mailed me their type. I don't know who did it. There's no name on it, so maybe that first thing I should do is figure out which one of you people out there that would have sent me your type, so that I can figure out how to get it to you.
Oh, I think that was me, Scott.
No, I think it was Chris, because he's the only guy without a real address. I mean, during the winter.
That darn itinerant printer. He's just everywhere.
I did see him on here.
He is. Yep.
Last page.
I saw you earlier.
It wasn't me, Scott.
There you
I do
are,
have some
Chris.
type to send you. I do have some that I'm going to send to you for a friend in Florida soon, so I'll email you about that. But it wasn't me.
I don't know. I'll get them out next time and show them people. So.
Yeah, I'll take some snaps and send them to Stephanie. If you guys want to do that for Jason and I next week, I think we'd be happy to start our program with some sorts to sort out.
Yep, I just put my email in the chat. So if you want to email me any sort photos, we can see how to facilitate.
What's up, Casey?
What's up? How y'all doing? It's great to see everybody. It's almost like a mini goose.
Yeah.
You know?
Is this your first time on one of the calls, Casey?
It is. Yeah.
Well,
I missed the last few, family stuff and trying to teach, and usually some of it's come in the times of when I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Is that a mustache, Casey?
Mm-hmm.
Well, mustache, and then I got a little bit of the what do you call that thing?
Flavor saver?
No, it's what's
Salt
the old a Buffalo Bill? That's the Buffalo Bill. That little patch.
Handsome.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was watching something with John Wayne. They asked him what was up with his mustache and this thing. And they said, "What do you call that?" And he said that's called a Buffalo Bill. Yeah. So I always called it a soul patch. I don't know where that came from. So, yeah.
Oh.
What was that?
I don't know, but it sounded like a party.
Sure did. Or an ice cream truck. Probably can't.
Greg Walters, are you casting anything right now?
I am. I've cast some 96 point type.
Ooh,
In fact,
nice. Wow.
Got a picture of it there. Just getting started. Finally got warm enough.
Are you still running your L-rod and making line material?
Yep. Plenty of time to do stuff now.
Right.
Are these things that we can order, Greg, or are you just running orders that you have?
Oh, you can order them. Yeah, you can buy them. They're all for sale. I only printed this proof a couple days ago, so I haven't done anything with it yet.
Where do people order type from you, Greg?
By mail.
Oh.
I don't have an internet presence. I don't want the city to know I've got tons and tons of lead.
We won't tell. Is there a good email if somebody wants to reach out to you that they could reach out to you?
And my regular email, DeSoto1956 @hotmail.com.
Okay.
Say that again.
Yeah.
DeSoto1956 @hotmail. There, APA people will, of course, eventually get a specimen in the APA bundle. And I'll, you know, at the Ways Goose, I'll be there with type.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we're working on it right now. We promise. Ooh, this is a good plug. So, if any of you guys, there's three deadlines coming up. So if you want to speak at Ways Goose, you can. April 30th is the deadline for call for papers. So if you have something you want to share at Ways Goose, both for workshops and for the Saturday breakout sessions, there's information, and I'll put a link over in the chat. But if you go to our website under Ways Goose, there's call for papers. So April 30th is that deadline. Then we have scholarships. So each year we have between 8 and 10 scholarships for students that want to attend Ways Goose, but maybe they can't attend Ways Goose. So we can help financially and make that happen. So there is an application. It is on the website under Ways Goose, under scholarships. And that deadline, I think, is the 18th, but I can check real quick and make sure. And I am working on getting the volunteer application up as well. That'll be up by the end of next week. So let me just check that scholarship date. If you have students that you think would be a really good, that like they need to come to Ways Goose because they need to see this information and they need to meet these people, then make sure they enter. May 17th is the deadline for scholarship entries. So anyway, that's because right now, as of right now, we are still planning on a in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, Hamilton Goose. If that changes, we'll let you know. But as of right now, we're all on board. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you all know what an L-rod is? Probably not. One of the more interesting things I saw at Greg's house on one of his open houses for people was the machine that was making, you know, that nice pica, you know, the metal, all the metal line material you have that you keep cutting up and making it. He's been making, and I've been amazed at it, just beautiful, shiny, new, beautiful unoxidized line material, but in a bunch of different thicknesses. And the bigger ones have holes in them. Is that right?
Yes, for save weight. Yep, save metal.
Is the metal for making line material different alloy than for casting?
There's 3 different metals normally. Linotype metal, monotype metal, and foundry metal. And the linotype metal is used for all the leads and slugs.
Is that the cheapest or the
Yes.
worst alloy?
Yeah, it's the softest.
And it comes out in a continuous strip, and you just cut it.
Yep.
So it comes out of this machine and pulls it. It has a thing that pulls it out of the pot of the molten type metal to a pattern. And one of the first things Greg told me a long time ago in a long drive to Iowa from Ohio and picking up Dave Pete was that when you were an intern or an apprentice, one of the first things they did was when you left for lunch is it has a machine, it has a stop that cuts at a certain length, like 2 feet long or 3 feet long. As soon as the apprentice leaves, you go and take that off. And when he comes back, the whole room is full of one long piece all pushed against the wall and spiraled around. That was a standard joke for the people that, for a joke you played on the new people.
Yep.
So
At college, on Parents' Day at college, we would start the machine up and run it out in the hallway and see how far it could go. So, you know, go through the hallway, then go up the stairs to the next floor and stuff like that.
That's fun.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you see the question about if Ways Goose will run the same way as it did last year?
Yeah, and I just put some links over there. So yeah, Ways Goose right now, well, it's the same, except it's different. So we're really excited because this year we're partnering with the American Printing History Association, and we've not done a partnership like this for Ways Goose before. So that's why we're doing the call for papers. If you guys have ever attended Ways Goose, you know it changes a little bit every year. Let's see what we can do. And this year we're really excited to partner with AFA. So we will still have the same setup where we have the major speakers. And then Saturday, just like we did last year, it's all going to be in one space. So that way you can see every speaker and you don't have to worry about choosing. So it'll be a one-track system like we did in 2019. But like I said, being able to have people apply for the papers, that's brand new. We've never done that before. So I think that's a really exciting thing. Because I know we're going to see people that we, you know, maybe hadn't even thought of before, which I think is really exciting. I know there's somebody out there cooking something up that we don't know. So I think that's great.
So the program will be like the normal APA program?
So it'll be like the normal Hamilton program, but AFA is the one helping us choose who does the speaking sessions on Saturday. So it'll be a mix. I mean, it's definitely a Hamilton meets AFA. So we've been working with Amelia Fontanelle is our board president, our Hamilton board president, and she's a big part of AFA. And so we've been working with her to make it all flow smoothly. Mm-hmm.
I have a question for the team, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever worked with or even seen Arabic type, specifically Arabic wood type?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
some in Amsterdam.
Also, David Shields has, I believe.
Okay.
I think he did a trip there.
I've made quite a bit of Arabic replacement letters. Just like right now, I'm working on several big sets of Hebrew for some people. But no, the Arabic is very interesting. You have to make sure you're doing the right one though, and the right version. And is it before the English came in and picked the characters for the typewriter? And I've worked with some young grad students who are doing research on the impact of the British typewriter on the 240 character Arabic font, and the English picked which ones they were going 44 for their typewriters. And now they're going back to new Arabic. I've been making a lot of new Arabic for people. But again, thank goodness they send me beautiful drawings or proofs, because I wouldn't know. But it's back to being very floral, very nice.
What's the difference in the new Arabic versus, I guess, an older version? Is it still 240 characters?
No, they're down to 100, I believe, and I may be wrong. They were down to 100. They went back to 120 characters. But originally, the 240 some were very impacted by. I'm trying to remember the girl's information. Was very impacted by, with quite a bit of swirls and fine lines and things. And then the British, and it was very, very beautiful, very. And then when the British came in, they decided they needed to make a typewriter. So they went ahead and picked the ones that were going to be used on the typewriter. And so for years and years, and it was much simplified so that they could put it on a typewriter strike. And then the new Arabic, I guess, is going back. I'm sorry, I don't know more. I just work with certain people on projects. But the new Arabic is back to being more flourishy and more involved. And I don't know how it fits together.
I wonder if there's more styles. Is there just one style of that? You know, I mean, with all of our fonts here, we have a lot of styles, and Gothic or, you know, a serif or a sans serif. Is there just one style?
It's like the Hebrew. If you get a book I went ahead and got a book sent in to me for doing some work with some people, and the Hebrew fonts have the basic characters, but it's like our English fonts in terms of different styles and it's based a lot on calligraphy. And the one font I was working on for a lady in Seattle or somewhere out west, and it had a name. It was I'll make it up, the Johnson Hebrew font. I don't know.
There are three dominant Hebrew styles of fonts. One is block Hebrew, The other one is Torah Hebrew, which has got the punctuation built into it. And the other one is non-block, non-punctuation Hebrew. And so there are three technical methods of presenting Hebrew. For the answer for the Arabic, there is a novel wood type font that's available to use at GWA in Holland. They're an Amsterdam print shop that took on a couple of really cool font design projects, and one of them is in Arabic, and they have a full family there, and even somebody who knows how to typeset with it.
Rick, is it sort of like Hebrew with the diacriticals being the vowels? So, for example, in Hebrew, you'd have 22 characters, but if you had to add the diacriticals or the vowels, you'd have a much larger alphabet if it was in wood or metal.
From what I've researched with Arabic, because we might have some money to make some Arabic type and we want to make sure that we do it right because it's rather complicated. One aspect of it is that, like, depending where a letter sits within a word, the shape can change there's like up to 4 forms of each letter. So in the word falafel, which is what a friend of mine used as the example, like there's 2 A's and 2 F's, and they look different in each spot. So
that is like Hebrew. That's really interesting.
So you need a lot of sorts in order to have a usable font, and we'd rather spend the money. We want to spend the money as best as possible, and hopefully it's not just getting like many thousands of letters made if there's a way to like simplify it down.
Yeah,
but
think of it like a blaxploitation film. You don't want to make it without some black people involved.
Exactly.
So find yourself a couple of Arabs and get it done right.
Yeah, that's really important, obviously.
I'm always very afraid when I do a foreign language type to make sure it's exactly right. I did some work with a professor and did some Chinese type, and she was wonderful about it and helped, and I could proof the digital file, then send it to her, and she would say, no, this stroke should be a little thicker. But the Hebrew I've made, I know from doing research, Rick von Holt took me back into your pattern areas. Oops, I didn't say that. At Hamilton, and showed how they often would drop a mortise hole and drop in the diacritical, the dots and things. And the European version of the Hebrew type, they actually, and Greg showed me this, they actually cut a U shape out. So in other words, the Hamilton, it would drop into a square hole. And on the European one, they actually would lock it up and it would be a U cut out of the top. So I've been doing a lot of research. I'm not always very good at it, but I know Hamilton did make the fonts, and they have the patterns. So
we do, and we have some full fonts that haven't been printed yet. But we have Hebrew. I don't know that we have Arabic. So, but we can always show if anybody is interested in it. We can get it out.
Cool.
I think the Hamilton Cats relationship of 1880 was like it was 1 or 2 styles of Hebrew, but not much more. And I don't think any of them had punctuation or vowels embedded in it, which meant that it was much more casual Hebrew, if you know what I mean, versus Torah Hebrew.
And I didn't know how many characters. I was looking for a scale of font, like a 3A or a 4A font. And Jim Moran did research for me and found out what this typical scale of fonts was in a basic Hebrew package, so thank you, Jim. I don't know if you're on anywhere, but very nice research.
Hey, Rick, the reason that the wood type in Hebrew didn't have diacriticals was because it was primarily manufactured for Yiddish theater.
Oh.
They didn't use it.
That's why, thanks.
Yeah.
I sense a ways goose topic.
The APHA might like that one.
Ooh, I think they would like that one quite a bit.
Molly, can you expound on why you're interested in cutting the type?
I work for the Minnesota Center for Book Arts, and I don't know how much detail I'm allowed to discuss yet because it's not like public information, but we have some money to spend with the idea of having more people who speak different languages be able to use our studios. So like cutting type for those folks is part of the project. Obviously, like you know, we started this 3 months ago and now things are a little bit different. So I'm really hoping that we can still use that money for this project. But it's important that we do it right, of course. So
yeah, no, that's cool. It's interesting.
yeah,
It's a
I'm
great
really excited about it because I've seen Hebrew type, but never Arabic. And I've done a little bit of research. And it's just like interesting how the way that a language looks can affect, you know, like literacy of an entire population. You know what I mean? Because it was just like so much more expensive, from what I understand, to print Arabic because it was so complicated to cast the type that, like, therefore, like lesser literature and reading material was produced in that region, which is wild.
Less literature was produced in the region because the concept was that your handwriting in Arabic was the handwriting of God, and therefore, rather than just a handful of characters in Hebrew, which would never be written, the idea of the entire alphabet was belonged to God, and so there was a sort of truncation of publishing and writing in that format for so long until ultimately literacy and the requirements for literacy kind of took over. And it's still somewhat it's still a significant undertaking to make a new font. You'd have to really sort of approach it from a very scholarly perspective if you wanted to make something novel. But to go backwards in time and to reproduce old fonts, particularly newspaper type fonts and things like that, might be really easy to do because you've got a codex, but new stuff is hard.
No, I don't think that the budget would include like type design. I'm hoping that we can find something that exists that we can make work easily for wood type.
You want me to look into it? I have a very good friend who's a scholar, an Arabic scholar at a high school.
I'll email both of you.
Head of that department, actually. And he's, for his daughter's wedding, I made some Hebrew messages to put out on the tables. And he's offered to help if we ever wanted to pursue it some more. I can try and get that information to you. If you send something to morewoodtype@gmail.com, I can let you know. And I know we're supposed to be letting Amanda talk, but today, an interesting side, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, I had 2 students come up from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and I had done some workshops there, and they had approached me, and they were doing a research on Somali language, that there was no written Somali language permitted by the French. They did not want them to be able to organize against them. And so they prohibited and were not allowed to. They had to use French. They were not allowed to have a Somali language. And one gentleman designed it, font with some beautiful art. And they had found, thanks to Google or someone, they found his notebook with the full alphabet in it. And they actually designed it and came up here, and that they laser cut their patterns. And they came up here and pantograph cut it up here. But again, it never had been done because the Somalis weren't allowed to have a written language. They didn't want them to organize. That's all.
Nice. That was your TED Talk, dude. That was awesome.
That's right. That's right. That's my speech for the APHA, actually. So I don't know.
Is Ray Tomaso actually there, or is it just like a box?
I'm sitting there. I'm sitting here.
In the dark?
In the dark, yeah. His hair doesn't film well.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Ray, or St. Bride's may have something. Who knows? I can make some contacts over there. You'd be easier to do it. It's your country. But I've had some people come through, and maybe it exists. Erin said when she was at St. Bride's for a tour, and she made an appointment to go in, and she was, Erin, are you on here? Oh, good. Okay, I can tell this story. Erin went because her husband was working, had a job, inspection. He was working for an insurance type company. And while she was there, she went ahead and made an appointment to go to St. Bride's to see the wood type and just to say she'd been to St. Bride's. And she went in and they said, they started talking to her like, very nice gentlemen, I understand this. And I've heard this from several people. And they were talking about, this is printing press type. And and she started talking printing with them. All of a sudden they went, oh, this girl knows what she's doing. And she got to go in some different rooms and some different collections that they normally don't show. And one of them was all these foreign languages in wood type.
Wow.
A lot of foreign languages in wood type, over 100, she said. So
Scott, I think that's the type archive.
yeah,
I think that's not St. Bride's. They have they've got the I'm forgetting the name of it. The UK type wood type. Yeah, they've got all the patterns for that in files, like room after room of that stuff, including Devanagari and all kinds of non-US or non-Roman languages, because the monotype or the Little was doing worldwide stuff, even the way monotype was too. So it's an amazing collection. I know Thomas Mayo, who was at the last Ways Goose, he has some access to it, and I don't know what's going on there now with their shelter lockdown, but there's some folks who have access to that. They might be able to pull some material, Molly, and maybe even take pictures. Or I know they were eager to try to ramp something up there, and I'm sure it's stalled right now, but they have just this incredible unused archive.
Thank you. That's great.
Well, that was lovely and unexpected and a little roller coaster.
It was very nice.
to contact me, Molly. We'll see what we can figure out.
Yeah,
Although,
thank you.
of course, Britain has called you out, Rick, for holding court on my call. Privately.
What do you have to say to that, Mr. Rick Griffith?
Ha ha. I actually appreciate it. I don't mind. I don't have anything to contribute, so.
So, Rick, I had to ask, did you make those specifically for this, or did you have those sitting around just waiting for the day we would all be self-isolating?
No, I did this, I do this hangout on Thursdays called Fresh Off the Press, Thursdays at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And when we moved it to be online, you know, it's sort of like a hangout where we talk about, if I don't have something that I'm already printing and talk about it, then as a group of people, we kind of talk about, hey, what would be cool to make? And in the group of 4 or 5 people, there was a decision to make some Zoom cards. And so I've actually produced 50 sets of Zoom cards. There are 12 cards in each one. There's we use the laser cutter to cut a nice shape out of it with a, and then if you can see at the bottom here, it's actually like sort of printed, it's laser cut at the very bottoms backwards so that you can read whichever one is up facing you. Yeah, and so I've made about 50 sets of them. Jane asked for one, so she gets one. And then the people on the call, on the Thursday call, get a set. And, you know, it's, and then they come with this too, which is like a hand-painted card that you can hang on your door that tells people that there's a meeting in progress. And our children all sort of hand-painted and drew various versions of the meeting is in progress card. Yeah, for kicks and giggles, or you know, the other stuff too. So yeah, it's been a fun project. It's about 2 weeks old. Finally finished production on it, and you know, it's like one of those things where you're proofing type, you're making stuff, you know, like whatever.
That's life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you send me your address, you know, I might have a spare set. Yeah, do what you want. I mean, I've got Jane's address and they're going out today. I got Jason was in the call. There's a few people. Ben was in the call. But yeah, if you want to set, let me know. I'll do what I can.
Rick,
something.
Rick, could you explain to the old type cutter what in the world a Zoom card is?
Well, it's basically just, instead of talking all the time and talking over each other, if you want to sort of express an idea over what someone said, you can just go, yes!
Okay.
Kind of like that.
I understand.
Instead of being vocal, and it just it makes for a more fluid call, especially if you want to express approval of something, or if you want to answer a simple question, or if you want to tell someone that they're and the debate was, how many of them do you want to make? And I think the answer is, as few as you need, but as many as possible. And so, letting everybody know, right? So I don't know. It's a concept that like maybe really, really short-lived, and nobody really needs it after 2 months from now. But whatever, we got time to kill, and I like to invent things, and that's my take.
I have loved them because we see a lot of like scrawled notes, and then we see yours, and then I think Brad had, you know what I mean? It's very interesting, and it does keep some visual interest as everyone chats. I love it.
Yeah.
Selene just showed her face. I saw that down there.
There she is.
Now she's all red.
I had my cardio workout before our meeting, so I'm a little. Gotta drink my water.
This is not letterpress related, but this is my call, so I can do what I want. What does everyone know about catching squirrels? I think there are squirrels living in my house, like in my walls.
Yeah, don't catch them, shoot them.
How can I shoot? What am I just supposed to shoot through walls?
Don't catch them, call a company. In Santa Fe, pest removal is still considered an essential service.
One of my like friends who lives in the DC area mailed me an old like Nest security camera that I duct taped to the window downstairs to try to get video of the squirrel, because I think it's going into there's a little roof right outside of my office window, and I think there's like a little gap. So I think they're coming from the compost bin up into that gap with all their little rotten food. And then they're just skittering around like inside my floor and walls. But I haven't seen them yet. But I don't really want them in there. Nothing? Nobody has any.
I wouldn't call them squirrels until you see them.
Yeah, no, my other fear is that they're rats.
We got pack rats.
I just call them squirrels. I've been calling them squirrels because I've had a squirrel break into my last apartment. It like ate a perfect little square out of the screen and then like tromped across my TV and ate some cat food and pooped and peed everywhere and then like left the same way. So I'm hoping it's a squirrel.
Is that in your memoir? Because I think that's really important information.
You can write about today.
I can write about the squirrel. Well, yeah.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
Philadelphia.
You have a lot of squirrels in Philadelphia?
We do.
Oh my God.
We found a squirrel we found a pizza squirrel like a month ago. It had like stolen pizza out of somebody's recycling bucket because apparently we recycle pizza here. And it ran up a telephone pole and just sat on the top of it, like eating a slice of pizza. It was like very strange.
Yeah, I got bit by a squirrel when I was a kid and had to have those 15 shots in the gut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was painful, but it was a good story to tell when I got back to elementary school.
Yeah, I feel like I want this to be a squirrel that's living in my floors. I mean, I don't want anything to be living in my floors, but if something is going to be in there, I want it to be a squirrel and not a rat.
Casey, is that squirrel bite where you got all of your superpowers?
Yeah, I don't have my superpowers. You have to ask my wife about that. She'll probably say I don't have any, except for staying out my garage. Actually, it's the Global Amalgamated Headquarters for Inky Loops Press. The garage. Yeah.
Wow, Jason really just upped the game right there.
I'm gonna listen to a squirrel podcast later.
Yeah.
I titled so that you have to like name the Nest Cam, or you can name the Nest Cam. Thank you, Mary, for the Philadelphia Wildlife link. I will contact them and try to get them to get the squirrel. But I just named it Squirrel Cam, and it sends my phone an update every time it like sees activity or hears sound. But because it's like in the dining room, it just alerts me every time my boyfriend walks near the window. So I'm like, oh,
does Ring,
and then
does Ring make that?
This is like the Google one, I think, but it's like the old one.
Yeah.
Squirrel Cam.
Ring for squirrels.
Cameras is that they say things like, "Looks like there's a person there," and it tracks movement differently if it's a person or if it's just random movement. And when we were being broken into, there was like a person, and the Nest camera said, "Looks like there's a person at the rear camera," and then it sent a message saying, "I have been disabled." And it was like, oh shit, we're being robbed.
Well, that's not cool.
It was really cool. It was really helpful. Like, we called the cops, and they literally came in, and the guy was like smoking my weed under my desk. It was the weirdest thing ever. It was, but Nest, what a great product.
What I also love is that I did not know how this call was going to go, and that was the best way to end it.
Squirrel cams?
Talking about squirrel cams.
One more quick question before you end it. Greg or whoever else would know this. Is there, in regard to Molly looking for Arabic, is there a monotype mat somewhere, or is there some kind of a Ludlow mat book that would have the Arabic in it?
Well, I think Ludlow made Arabic, and Monotype made a lot of Arabic, but it required special equipment to cast it. And I have some mats for Arabic from ATF, but they're simplified Arabic, and I don't think she wants that. I think she wants the real thing.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all for joining us. It was another wonderful call. What, Jason? Yeah, you guys nailed it.